Today we're starting 10.1, which is solving two-step equations. Reminder, when we are solving for a variable or an unknown, we are going to use order of operations, which is parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, and addition and subtraction. And we are going to be using inverse, which means that we need to work backwards. So we are going to go from the bottom up. So first we would look for addition and subtraction, then multiplication and addition, then exponent, and then finally parentheses. Let's start with this first equation of 212 plus 48h equals 380. Again, we are going to be using inverse, so I would recommend that you put this at the top of your paper tomorrow, because we're going to look for addition and subtraction first. And here we see addition, and we are adding 212 and 48h. Now we want to isolate that variable, so we want to get this alone. Remember, those are attached to each other until the very end. So we are going to use inverse on both sides of the equation, and remember, we add the opposite. So I'm going to add a negative 212 to both sides so that it cancels out on the left, and 48h equals 168. Now this is just like what you saw in the last unit, where I want to get this h by itself, so that means multiplication. So using inverse, I'm going to divide by 48, and h equals 3.5. Now on some of your problems today, I'm going to have you check, so that way you should be getting every single problem correct. So if we work back at the beginning, I'm going to do 212 plus 48. Now instead of saying h, I'm going to put 3.5 in parentheses equals 380. And now I'm going to do order of operations the normal way. So first I see multiplication and division, so I'm going to multiply these out. So I'm going to change that, check it in the calculator, and I get 168 equals 380. I'm going to then add those two together, and 380 equals 380. So that checks out, so we know we did that correct. So my answer is 3.5. Let's try this one. P over 4 plus 5 equals 13. I want you to pause it, and I want to see if you can figure out the first step of using inverse. Okay, what you should have done is, again, we're looking for that adding and subtracting, so we're going to add a negative 5 to both sides, because we want to get the P divided by 4 by itself. So by adding a negative 5, that 5 would cancel out. I'm going to bring P over 4 equals, and now I'm going to simplify 13 plus negative 5, which equals 8. Now I want to get P alone, so the opposite of dividing is we are going to multiply by 4. Now make sure when you do this, you put your 4 up on top, because this is the same thing as 4 over 1, and that will be important when we start working with fractions. I'm going to do that to the other side. So I'm left with P equals 32. I want you to do a check on your own in your notes to make sure that it is correct. Okay, third example. Negative 2.5m minus 1.7 equals 1.8. Now I just want to do a quick reminder. We are always using SAO, which means same, add, opposite. So we are going to rewrite this as negative 2.5m plus negative 1.7 equals 1.8. I want you to go ahead and see if you can do this one on your own. So pause it, see if you can solve using inverse, then press play and check your work to mine. Okay, what you should have done is you first should have added 1.7 to both sides, which leaves me with negative 2.5m on the left, and that will equal 3.5. Then I'm going to divide by 2.5. So I'm going to be left with m on the left equals, now right away I notice I have a positive on top and a negative on the bottom. So I know my answer is going to be negative. You can use your calculator to help you, and you get negative 1.4. I want you to check your answer the long way on your paper to make sure it's correct. And then let's go to our final problem. Okay, this is our last one, and I want you to put a star next to this one because this one's important because it's a little different than the other ones. The other ones we were always using multiplication, or we were using inverse, and we were always looking for adding and subtracting first. Now the way that this is written, it says k plus 4 divided by 9 equals 6. That means that this whole top is divided by 9. So in order to use inverse, we first have to multiply by 9 on both sides in order to get that numerator alone. So when we do that, this 9 on the left side will cancel out, and we are left with k plus 4 equals 54. Now I'm just going to get k by itself, so I'm going to add a negative 54 on both sides, and k equals 50. So let's do a check together. I'm going to do 50 plus 4 divided by 9, and I want to know if that equals 6. So if I were to do this normal using order of operations, first I would do my numerator, 50 plus 4, which is 54. Then I want to divide by 9, and I want to know, does that equal 6? Well, 54 divided by 9 is 6, so 6 equals 6, so that checks out. You can now do your exit slip. Use these notes to help you because you are going to see ones just like this to help you figure out your steps.